Hi guys, my name is Matthew Duhig. I'm the Managing Director of FX Digital. We're an agency based in London and we build voice and TV applications. And I'm here to talk to you today about how voice and TV are really going to come of age after COVID-19 and the role that these emerging technologies will play in rebuilding brands. So without further ado, let's kick off and get into things. So what are we going to expect from today? So firstly, I'm going to give you an introduction into voice assistants and connected TV. Following this, I'm going to give you an overview of the types of content that we expect to see on these platforms, the content that really succeeds on the platforms. Then I'm going to dive into the typical revenue models that work across both those platforms, and also how these technologies have been affected by the lockdown at the moment. After that, we're going to consider what is the future for voice and TV, and do we expect that the things that have happened during the lockdown are going to benefit it in the future. Following that, I'll give you some final thoughts. So, where did we all start? So if you think right back to where this began, media was traditionally broadcast and it was really scheduled programming, so it was a one-way communication, obviously starting with radio and then moving through to linear TV, which is still broadcast scheduled programming. But then eventually our saviour, the web, come around, and this was our first truly on-demand experience of accessing content. Content was delivered, but it wasn't necessarily in a comfortable environment. If you think about where you're using your phone, you might be on the go. If you're using your laptop, you've probably got it on your lap or on a table in front of you, and your posture's not ideal. So really, accessing audio and rich media is probably best done using different devices. So what does innovation in this media consumption look like? So let's talk about voice assistants. Voice assistants are software agents that can perform tasks or services for an individual based on commands or questions. And when I'm talking about voice assistants, really I'm focusing here on things like Alexa and Google Assistant. Additionally, when talking about connected TV is video content that's consumed on a TV screen, and this is delivered through an internet connection. Now, connected TV is a really broad term, and we'll dive into it a little bit deeper in a minute. So let's talk about voice first. So voice is generally found on smart speakers and mobile devices. Voice assistants have some native capabilities, so if you've ever used Alexa to, say, set an alarm or turn on a timer, or perhaps used it to find some information from the web, you're using native functionality on that device. But as developers, we can extend that functionality, and we do this by building skills, actions, or capsules. There's different terms depending on the sort of voice technology you're using. And these skills are really apps. They're apps that you can build for the devices that give it extra capabilities. And then you can publish these skills to the skills stores, and then users of these devices can enable those skills on their own devices for their use. If you've ever used Alexa and then said, Alexa, open this, or Alexa, ask this to do this, you're using a skill there. You're not using the native functionality of that device. Media that can be played on devices like Alexa and other voice assistants is obviously audio media, but also we can play video media on them there as well when we think about multimodal devices. So looking at those multimodal devices, what sort of devices do we have? In the Alexa lineup, we've got things like the Echo Show, but also we've got TVs now as well. So voice assistants are finding their ways into those TV applications. And if we look here at this image we've got on the slides, you can see that we've got an Alexa skill that's showing that's also accompanied by some images. These images have been built using APL, which is the Alexa presentation language, and they accompany an audio-first experience. Moving then into connected TV. How does connected TV work, and what sort of things do we see in this space? So like I mentioned earlier, connected TV is a really broad term. When we think about connected TV, we think about consoles, PlayStation and Xbox, but also smart TVs being things like Samsung Tizen or LG WebOS. And then furthermore, we think about smaller set-top boxes, perhaps those created by the likes of Sky or Virgin or Vodafone. These are all considered connected TV devices. Now, if you've ever got home, sat down on the sofa and then hit the Netflix button on your remote, you're actually opening a connected TV application there. That application was built by Netflix and that's installed onto the devices. It might have come pre-installed on your device, but it's still a TV application. Now, we as developers can build these applications and then publish them to the vendor stores. And this model works very similarly to the mobile app market. You can build those apps, get them on the stores, and then users can download them to their TVs and then consume the video content. And they can do this in the comfort of their own home. So unlike being on a laptop or a mobile phone, all of a sudden we've got a different experience, and we call that experience the 10-foot experience. If we look now at the sort of popular types of content that we find across voice and TV, looking at voice, we tend to see things like this do really well. So you've got your food content. This is stuff like BBC Good Food. There's some great recipes on there. People tend to use the voice assistants in rooms like the kitchen, for example. If you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, then you're probably using something like Good Food to help you with the recipes. As well as that, you've got takeaway apps. So Domino's have a great skill, and with that skill, you can reorder your favorite pizza. Additionally, you've got games. So games are great because they're interactive, and like we mentioned, Alexa and those sorts of voice assistants are interactive. In these games, you can do questions and answers, Q&A, that sort of stuff. Also, you've got lifestyle apps like Headspace. These are great because another space that you tend to find voice assistants is in the bedroom. And if you're in the bedroom, you might want to go to sleep listening to some Headspace, which is really great. Furthermore, shopping is a great space for voice as well. And the term of V-commerce and the whole explosion of transactional activities on voice assistants is something now as well. And if we look at V-commerce, you've got apps like the Interflora app, and then the Ocado app as well. And I keep using the word app, but their skills, it's interchangeable really. The Ocado skill is really good. You can basically add items to your shopping basket as you're cooking, for example, when you're running out of things. And then after a few weeks, you might order those, and then obviously Ocado will deliver them. So there's real potential for shopping on the platform as well. And obviously you've got music. Music's really popular across the voice platforms. The likes of Spotify and Apple Music dominate that. And I'm sure if you've used a voice device, you might have used one of those when playing music before. So looking now at connected TV. Connected TV is obviously video-rich content. And generally you start to think about TV streaming apps. So we've got the big players like Prime Video. Netflix is arguably the king of connected TV at the moment. And then you've got Disney Plus as well, which is really making a run for it and doing really well recently, especially during the lockdown. And I'll come on to that in a minute. But you've also got apps like Peloton. And these are different types of apps that aren't necessarily video streaming apps like you'd expect, but they give users different types of content, more interactive content. It's fitness-based content, but people like to do that in front of a bigger screen in the comfort of their own home. And again, obviously during the lockdown, when people are staying at home more often, it's more important to be doing fitness and activities like that from the home, and having an app like that accompanying you in doing it is really great. You can also get music streaming apps on your TVs. The likes of Spotify, for example, is a good app. It will give you visuals as it's displaying and playing music on your TV. And then also, interestingly, gaming is something that we can start considering for TV as well. Now, gaming isn't really associated with these TV devices because TV devices tend to have really low resources and they don't perform necessarily well with stuff that requires high CPUs or high uses of RAM. However, Google Stadia has been rumoured to be coming out on Android TV soon. And if that's true, that's really exciting because the way Google Stadia works is rendering stuff server-side, delivering it down to a TV. So it doesn't need to have those super powerful resources to be able to play that gaming content. So this is another space and another opportunity for content creators to get content onto a TV, and gaming works with it well. So how do we make revenue across both these platforms? So if we look at voice assistants, we're really talking about in-skill purchase. And there's different ways of doing this. So this is specifically Amazon here, Alexa, but Google Assistant also has in-action purchase sort of options as well. And there's three real key types for Alexa. You've got entitlements, and this would be a digital product that someone can buy on your skill that doesn't expire. So if you imagine you've got a game, then it could be an expansion pack that someone purchases for a new level or something like that. Alternatively, you've got consumables. Now, consumables could be things like an extra life that someone might use if they've run out of lives. This can be built into a game. This could be a consumable that someone purchases. Probably the most popular one of all those are subscriptions. Subscriptions are really ongoing access to content or services. And they're the three real key types of voice assistant revenue models. Moving then into TV, we stick with that sort of subscription-based model. In TV, we have plenty of acronyms for this sort of stuff. The main sort of model that most of these operators are tending to take these days is the SVOD model, which is subscription video on demand. Netflix is really the king of this, and it's basically a user paying a subscription fee to access and view content. And they typically consume content uninterrupted without any access controls or anything like that. They can just get on there, pay for their subscription and view that content uninterrupted. Alternatively, you might have come across some AVOD platforms, which is advertising video on demand. In the UK, we have 4OD, that's an advertising platform, AVOD platform. You watch the content, but in between those pieces of content, you consume some ads, and that's how those content creators generate revenue. The biggest of them all, though, is of course YouTube. YouTube have a connected TV application as well as their web presence, and their whole model is an AVOD model there, as well as the upsell of an SVOD, which is their subscription service now as well. And the third model I've listed here, and there are a few more, but this third one is transactional video on demand. And this really is someone purchasing a piece of content to watch. Now this we're more familiar with as our sort of box office and sports stuff. But as well as that, Prime Video, for example, operates a TVOD model with some of their content that you can buy or rent. That's transactional VOD. Now, let's think about what's happened during the lockdown. A few pieces of information, researches and reports have been done recently on this stuff, so I'm going to share with you some statistics and some interesting insights into what's happened with these technologies during the lockdown. So again, if we start with voice, in the UK, more than half of voice assistant owners increased their use of the technology. That's pretty staggering. More people are at home, more people are using these devices, and that's generally the theme for this as we go through this. And it doesn't just stick for the UK. Looking across the globe now, in South Korea, the number of conversations people are having with voice assistants has jumped by nearly 40%, which is staggering again. Again, more people at home, there's a lockdown, more people using these devices. And if we think about the sort of content that they're getting access to from these devices, 35% of US smart speaker owners are saying that they're listening to more news, which is very interesting because it's probably quite topical now. People want that news on demand, and voice gives them the ability to get that. Additionally, 36% say that they've increased their consumption of music and entertainment. And these figures skew even higher when we look at the age demographics of 18 to 34. So perhaps that generation is using these devices more often than some of the others. Moving now into connected TV and how that's fared during the lockdown. In general, before we even think about connected TV, BBC saw viewer numbers increase by 23%, which is enormous. And again, more people at home, you're expecting them to be consuming more content. If we focus on connected TV, there have been an estimated 4.6 million new sign-ups to subscription video on demand offerings in the UK since the British Life went into lockdown. That's pretty staggering. In just 1 week from the end of February to the beginning of March, we actually saw a 54% leap in CTV viewing on ad-supported CTV platforms as well. And that's a global statistic, so there's been a real surge in connected TV consumption. And when consumers stay at home in general, during broadly disruptive events, their media consumption rises nearly 60%. And this isn't specifically talking about lockdown, this could be during any, natural disasters, but generally when people stay at home, they're consuming more video content. Continuing on now, in the UK, 21% of British households purchased a new video subscription as they sought new entertainment options during lockdown. And of that, Disney Plus is estimated to have attracted 1.6 million subscribers in the UK in its first month alone. And Disney Plus come out in the UK 24th of March, so those numbers are quite staggering. Netflix first quarter new global subscriber numbers were also more than double its forecast. And it's going to be really interesting to see what their Q2 report comes out at as well. So we're really seeing some staggering stats here. What's the most cited content enjoyed? Tiger King. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Very interesting documentary. That seems to be keeping people entertained. But in the UK specifically, I've seen a real uptake on these fitness type applications. So if you think about Joe Wicks and even the return of Mr. Motivator, which is brilliant. I remember that guy when I was young, so it's fantastic to see him on the screens again. But this proves that there's really an appetite for other types of content across these platforms. People aren't just looking for the Netflix style or the Amazon Prime. They're looking for other types of content on their connected TV devices too. One important thing to note though, as expected, advertising has taken a hit during lockdown. Less sports means that there's less lucrative ad spots. Additionally, less corporate spending means that there's less advertising spots being sold. So now let's talk about the future of these technologies. Will these habits that have formed during lockdown be here to stay? And will this new normal that we're all talking about cause consumption of these devices to increase? So we think about voice in particular, the adoption of digital assistants is likely to accelerate, especially in client-facing areas such as healthcare, retail and entertainment. Now think about the fact that we're all obviously conscious of touching things at the moment, so voice really has a part to play here. It can really prevent the need to touch certain devices. If I think about this in a commercial use case as well, perhaps you're in a job where you have to do a stock take, it will be really useful not to have to touch a device and to be able to talk to a device instead, especially if that device is a communal device. Edison and NPR also found that the number of smart speakers per household in the USA rose from 1.7 to 2.6. So people are generally having more smart speakers in their house. And that's a statistic that has been. So that's showing that the growth of this voice assistant is there. And we're looking at that really continuing on. Now there's loads of statistics about voice and some of them are a bit skeptical. So I try to use the ones that make most sense to me and try not to go a bit crazy with it. The UK-based analyst at Juniper Research estimates there'll be about 8 billion digital voice assistants in use by 2023. That's a staggering number, but that's something that I genuinely believe can be the case. And voice is expected to be a 40 billion channel by 2022. Now, with more consumers turning to voice shopping, that's completely plausible, especially as our habits change and the way we access information and services changes over time. It's important to obviously think about that as potentially a market that we can get into now and very early on, because it's still a very sort of open sea, this sort of technology. Moving now into connected TV, the number of households benefiting from the technology is set to increase by 82% by 2023. And these numbers, although staggering, are very realistic because we've seen this growth in connected TV for the past few years, and it looks set to continue. In Q1 of 2020, overall streaming viewing is up 57% globally. Obviously, the lockdowns had some impact on that, but we're expecting that to continue, really. The staggering thing really is in 2019, the biggest pay TV providers lost more than 4.9 million customers overall, which is a single year biggest decline in cable TV history. So people are changing out cable and opting for these SVOD and AVOD services instead. The paradigm shift to connected TV has really started to accelerate, and this is also accelerating due to COVID, as people opt to cut the cable to go for those paid optional subscriptions that they can just cancel on a monthly notice. It's predicted that global online TV episodic and movie revenues will also reach over 158 billion by 2024. This is more than double the 67.8 billion recorded in 2018. And again, those figures are quite staggering. And SVOD revenues will climb to 69 billion by 2023, with AVOD revenues reaching 47 billion. Now, there's a lot of numbers here, a lot of statistics, but I'm just trying to get across the vibe that this industry and this connected TV and OTT, which is what we call the sort of general video over the internet space, it really is growing. Google's Android TV is a very interesting discussion point as well. Their model's very similar to the mobile market. They have a TV-based operating system, which is obviously actually based on the Android mobile operating system. And their strategy here is similar. They have partnered with vendors like Sony to launch their operating system onto those TV devices. So what we're seeing is that Android TV is growing in popularity and growing in presence across smart TVs and across the world. It now makes up nearly 1 in every 10 smart TVs. And that statistic there is actually from 2019. So I think if we took it again, it would probably be more. But that growth of Android TV and the features that Android TV has, the rich functionality, the voice control, the interface, the aesthetics, make it more appealing for users to buy it. So I can only see Android's consumption there growing. More so that Amazon TV is actually an Android-based platform as well, Amazon Fire TV. So Android is really, really taking a hold on the TV space. So I guess what everyone wants to know is, are these lockdown trends really here to stay? And in my opinion, this really depends on what this new normal is. If this new normal means that more people will spend more time at home, then we're definitely going to see some uptake and upkeep of these habits that we've seen recently. We're going to see increased consumption across both voice and TV when compared to pre-lockdown. This is especially true when we start thinking about sports returning. More people at home, more sports on, more consumption. If the new normal means less touching, then voice has definitely got a place. And I'm expecting the growth of that to accelerate due to lockdowns or potential, reoccurrences of events like this. And as the adoption of both these technologies continues to increase, more brands are going to be looking to onboard. And I think there's a real window of opportunity now for those innovators looking to be on these platforms sooner than the rest. If we think about connected TV in the UK, it really is quite an open space. You've got the big players, and then there's a lot of opportunity for these smaller brands to adopt connected TV and to be a good presence on there. And let me just leave you with this thought now, and it's that companies that are evolving to future systems are growing at twice the rate of companies that are unable to scale innovation. And that was found in an Accenture report. And that's a really interesting comment there. And this is true now more than ever. As companies look to hold on to cash to weather this storm post-lockdown, the opportunities for those brave early adopters with the resources will be enormous and very fruitful. Thank you for your time. Really appreciated sharing my thoughts with you.